Hey everyone, my name is Tegan and welcome back to this channel. Today is going to be the first day of my new project where I'm going back to recreate and reimagine some of my old photos, inspired by spending a lot of time looking at my old work. And kind of just, quarantine has put me in a slump where I don't have the motivation or the creative energy to make new photos, so we're going to be reworking my old works. In this video we are going to, I say we, I mean I'm going to be doing, I made a plan here. I'll put it up nicely on the screen so you can see it properly. But I'm going to be doing the first of the recreational images where I'm going to take the old image I made and just remake it pretty much the same visually, but changing the aesthetics to fit my current style. Whereas in the reimagining ones, I'm planning to just take the concept and do it differently, maybe better, some may think it's better. But that'll be redoing the image entirely. For this one we are working pretty much on how I developed my editing techniques and working on it in that way. So we're going to be doing the ophelia image. The main thing I wanted to do with this was make it, I think, visually and aesthetically, thematically darker. Because in my original image, first of all, it didn't have much of a link to ophelia, it was just stumbling water. So I'm going to probably take away from ophelia a bit more and go for more of like an Ursula Sea Witch vibe, actually having wet hair in the image as it is underwater for realism. And I think going with a black sheet as an outfit and having it flowing towards the camera, a lot more movement and flowiness in the image. So I'm going to go have a shower, get my hair wet, and then we'll be back probably with some kind of time lapse and I'll voice over what's going on. So this is a very bad angle, but it will do for this. I'm going to go into a small screen. So while I'm here, I'm going to quickly talk you through the editing process for the ophelia image, which became kind of like Ursula Sea Witch inspired. And I wish that I could probably screen record my entire editing process, but then it would be like 6 hours of just watching me Photoshop sped up, and then me just switching through tabs and not working, so you don't want to see that. So for this image, I had 4 base images. There was me kind of like holding onto my neck as like the proper bottom one, which everything got laid on top. Next we had a hair flip one for kind of the illusion of like hair floating down through the water, which in my opinion is one of my best hair flips I've done. Then we have 2 pictures of me waving around this black duvet cover, which became the dress, and I was trying to throw it towards the camera to have a bit more depth that way in the image, but it doesn't come across that much because black is a bit flat. So I started off this edit, I opened all the images in Camera Raw, I turned down the highlights and the whites by about like -50 to bring back some definition into my face, bring some features back, and especially for the hair to bring a lot of detail back in that. I used the auto white balance settings. I think I went with daylight, and it adds a slight warmth to the image. So yeah, after doing that I opened up the base image, I made it into a square, and then I just positioned it so the entire height of the image fit into the square. The next big step I do for editing, and I'm just going to say this editing process kind of applies to a majority of the images I do, they all start in similar places, they just differ thematically. Like this one has a lot of extra steps for the water, but I usually start off with a base image and layer on some components to add like movement to the dress and hair, and just the same textures at the end, but we'll get to that. So for this one I added in, first of all I replaced my entire head and neck with the hair, well my head from the hair flip image, but I rubbed out the face because my face was better in the one where I was posing for the face, believe it or not. I roughly cut out the dress pieces just to get them in the right position and to make sure that they were the ones I actually wanted to use because I had options. So yeah, they were roughly cut out. This stage you don't need to bother about blending or making it look good, it's just putting them in place. The next stage is where you go into blending. And I also cropped the image in a little more to line up with the straight edges which were left over from cutting out the dress pieces, because I wanted it to go off the screen, kind of to give the illusion of this like bigger world and a lot more a lot more is happening that's not in the image. At this point I also zoomed right into the hair, like selected a colour from the background and then filled in the entire background, just because it'll be easier to blend hair into a colour that's already in the image. But you can see in the next step I changed that colour because I'm still not the best at cutting out hair, so I thought it'd be easier just to have this grey black background which matched my backdrop. But when I added in this, the water thing at the above is very important because it adds like depth and it kind of creates more of a realistic illusion that you're under the water, even though obviously not. So yeah, I replaced the background colour with a dark colour that I picked out from this specific water image. And then you can go back to having these black outlines around my hair. The next was to continue building the background, and it's more the details. Because for water you basically just need to block in the solid colour background, and it's all about things like these little air bubbles that obviously add some kind of realism to the image. And also you can kind of see around the bottom of the dress that isn't in the last image is that it kind of fades into the blue in the background. And that's because if you're underwater, the further something is away from you, like the more hazy and the darker it is. So I had to add in these little details to kind of, I keep saying add realism, but I guess that is, can you see me? Yeah, to add little realism to this, because the dress, with the amount of dress implied in the image, it would be fading down into the depths. And this would be the final stage in all my images, is where I add this oil paint texture to, I use the same one for every single one for consistency, just because I want my images to look like a painting. But also for this one I added a water texture that you can see very clearly, specifically around the bottom of the dress, just for more watery vibes. It doesn't... But I think the image looks fine without it, but that water texture adds a little something extra. Again, I was going to say realism, but it just... emphasis on water is what it does. And then for the final step, because my laptop screen that I edit on isn't colour calibrated, by the time I open up pictures on like my phone and iPad to just have another look and just zoom in nice on it, the colours are completely different. So I would probably download this image onto my iPad and then I open up into the Photoshop Express app, which is actually a very good app for colour correcting. And you can also get the actual Photoshop program as an app as well, but I don't have storage for that. But I would open up all my images in this app just to do some final colour adjustments, nothing big, just subtle. Because, you know, some phone apps are actually very good for editing and you should not like completely write them off just because they're a phone app. So for this one, again, I turned down the whites and the highlights, probably around 50 again, just to continue adding more detail back into my face and hair. I also darkened the, not the shadow, I think I darkened the blacks, it was either blacks or shadows, just to, because the dress is a little brown looking, because it's a thin sheet and it's warm lighting, so it comes as a more brown black rather than a true black. So I added more black to this. And then I also, what else did I do? I added, is it the vignette? When you add like the slight black border. Yeah, I added a bit of black around the edges, on like very feathered, just to kind of, it draws focus to the subject and also darkens, it fades off into the edges and it has the illusion of this bigger world. But the one thing I did is when I opened this on my iPad screen, it was just how I was shocked by how vibrantly blue it was. And I was going for more an Ursula vibe than an Ariel vibe, so I desaturated those blues just a little bit. And also the oranges, so my skin was kind of paler. Or less orange. So yeah, that was the editing process for this image, that was also the shoot. So I hope you enjoyed this. I kind of enjoy making this content because I like documenting what I do, and I think it's easier for me to explain to other people what I do through video format where I can make it concise and clear rather than me explaining in person because I fumble over my words a lot. So yeah, I like making these videos, I hope someone enjoys watching them, but they are mostly made for myself. So thank you for watching and I will see you next time. Bye!